USOIL spot, which in fact we had a tremendous bullish momentum yesterday, which finally incited our first position for the week as we saw price action move over 200 pips in our favor before this bearish momentum began. And in fact, if you are taking advantage of that opportunity, you must have been taken out if you moved your stop losses accordingly. Remember, this is what we normally preach in this community, that whenever price moves significantly well, ensure you move your stop losses to secure the position, so that if price goes the opposite direction, the worst case scenario you will be in is on the positive side of your portfolio. Now, before we go into the details of what our expectations would be like today, let's run through how the week started for us here and what led to the idea of buying this asset. Now, if you look at the structure closely, you will see that initially we had a range where price was confined at the beginning of the week. I think this lasted for about 36 hours as price. So I think 48 hours price was trapped within a range that was between the $85.45 level and of course the $85.55 area, to emphasize the level of indecision at that point in time. And you know how we do it in this community. Whenever price action falls into this kind of range, we want to wait patiently for a signal to come, which of course will come either in the form of a breakout of the resistance line or the breakdown of the support line for an opportunity to either buy or sell. And in fact, you saw what happened yesterday. Interestingly enough, we finally saw the breakout of the $85.40 level, giving us our first buy position for the week. And in fact, we were able to scoop in a significant amount of profit on that one. So once again, congratulations to everyone. Kudos to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. Now, as we head into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans? Since we have a breakout of that channel finally, is this a platform that will be driving the next wave of bullish momentum, or is this going to turn out to be a false breakout? Now, for us to have an idea into what is really going on in this market right now, I would love us to scale up into the 4 hours time frame. Let's refresh our memories as regards to what we saw on that time frame, then come back into the 1 hour time frame to relate what we have there to make an informed trading decisions. So on the 4 hours time frame, remember at the beginning of the week we acknowledged that price action has been bullish since the month of June this year, and in fact we have an ascending trend line in that regard, which of course was broken during the course of last month's trading session. But we saw the breakdown happen right here. Price came back into that bullish platform at the $78 area to incite an uptrend continuation. And in fact, we finally saw the breakout of our key level. Remember, we had a key level for this week, which was situated at the $84 level. And in fact, price broke out of the structure at the beginning of this month. Remember, this level was a strong selling niche at some point in the month of August, as we saw sellers negating all the bullish attempt. But now that we have a breakout of that structure, the potential of an uptrend becomes higher. Now, one thing we said at the beginning of the week is this. Let me show you what we looked at the beginning of the week. So the first thing we noticed is that in the last couple of weeks, price has been finding higher lows in this market. And in fact, we connected a series of higher lows. Let me extend this out a little bit to give us this ascending trend line, which of course we agreed that we are going to be using to guide our trading activity for this week. And what this simply means is that as long as price remains above that ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable buying the USOIL spot. Then we also emphasize that since price broke out of the $84 level, that are we going to see a situation where price will come back to retest the structure to incite an uptrend, or is there going to be a trend continuation pattern that will incite an uptrend right away, which is of course what happened yesterday as we saw the breakout of that structure. So now with the information we have gathered on the 4 hours time frame, it will make a lot of sense when we start deliberating on the 1 hour time frame. So let's scale down into the 1 hour time frame. So right now price is at a crucial point, just right around that ascending trend line, as you will see here. So we shall be looking out for patterns that will support an uptrend continuation as long as price remains above that ascending trend line. So let's scale down into the 1 hour time frame to identify setups that we are going to be using to guide our decisions for today. Now, the first and first here is that we want to acknowledge that resistant line of that channel we identified at the beginning of the week. Remember, I told you we had price trapped within this range during the early hours of the week to emphasize the level of indecision before we saw the breakout of that resistant line to trigger our first buy position. Now, since price broke out of that structure, from a technical standpoint, whenever price breaks out of a key structure such as the $85.45 level, we expect that some point in time price is likely going to come back to retest that structure in anticipation of an uptrend continuation. And in fact, when price came back to retest the structure a couple of hours ago, we begin to see some buy pressure around that area. And one thing that also makes this area very interesting is the fact that it also shares a beautiful confluence with that ascending trend line we identified on the 4 hours time frame. So if the buy pressure above the $85.45 level continues, we will have no other choice than to start looking out for buying opportunities. Now let's talk about the potentials of buyers at this point and what to look out for to join an uptrend continuation. So right now that we have some buy pressure around this area, price is giving us signs that it's about to retest the structure to incite an uptrend continuation. Now, we also want to note that if price remains above our ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in that buy position. So I have a level here that we are going to be using to guide our decisions, and that is the $85.90 level. Now, I will be sharing with you in a moment how important that level is, but let me label it first of all. So we have the $85.90 level marked out right here. So you do want to be marking that out on your chart, as we shall be needing it as a reference point to guide our independent trading decisions for today. Now, why is this level important? Now, in the last 24 hours, this level has been a major determinant of price action. You will see right here, it was a buying niche, as you see. That was during the New York session, about 2 hours into the New York session. And later on in the New York session, we saw how sellers found it difficult to break through that level. And not until about 3 hours ago that we saw the breakdown of the structure. So you can see how that level right there has played a major role in determining the direction of price action. Now, with that level marked out, I would like to see price action break out and retest that level to give me an opportunity to join the uptrend continuation. Now, so I want to see buy pressure above this level to capitalize on that uptrend move. And now there are two ways to which we can capitalize on this opportunity. Now, if you have been part of this profitable journey so far this week, that is, you are part of this bullish move where you are able to secure some profit, then you can afford to leverage on the profit you had made so far this week to test waters around that area. So in that regard, placing a buy stop order above the structure will be quite okay, and let's see if this buy position is going to click. And if it doesn't, then we know that we are just using some of the profits we have made so far this week, and we are not even touching our portfolio at all. However, if you are new with us here and this is going to be your first position for this week, and then I will be advising you to remain patient, as you would want to see price break out of the structure first of all Then as soon as the breakout of that level happens, you scale down to your lower time frame like the 5, 10 or 15 minutes time frame to look out for signs that sellers are finding it difficult to drop back below that ascending trend line. And of course, this would reflect on the chart as a retest of structure, continued by pressure around this area to incite an uptrend move. So this is how we are going to be managing buying expectations on the US All Spot for today's trading session. And you can see how important that ascending trend line is on this current market structure. So we continue to look out for buying opportunity as long as price remains above that ascending trend line. Now, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunity in this market, you know how we do it in this community, we also want to keep tab with the opposite direction. We want to keep our options as open as possible. Remember, the financial market is a fluid environment, and for us to be successful in this market, we want to be as flexible and fluid and dynamic as possible. Now, in this case scenario, what is going to be happening on this chart that will make us change our bias from bullish to bearish? What is it that we are going to see that will give us an inclination that it is time to start thinking of selling? Now, well, if you look at the structure closely, remember we already have an ascending trend line which we spotted on the higher time frame, which of course has been respected in the last couple of weeks, as you will see here. And you know how we use our ascending trend line. If price remains above the ascending trend line, we still remain comfortable in our bullish bias. But if at any point in time price breaks down the ascending trend line, then at that point we want to start considering selling. Now, in this case scenario, to give a visual representation of what I'm talking about here, so I would like to see price slice through both the ascending trend line and the $85.45 level to capitalize on an opportunity to sell this asset. So that is how we are going to be looking out for selling opportunities. And one thing that I will state here is that we are not going to be getting too excited as soon as the breakdown happens. So in that case, we are not having a sell stop order. Instead, we want to exercise patience, wait for confirmations before we jump into that position. Mind you, this market is on a bullish sentiment, and any breakdown of the trend line at this point could still turn out to be a false breakdown. So we will need it to truly be a true breakdown before we jump into a position. And for us to confirm that, we would need to scale down to our lower time frame as soon as price break down the level. Then look out for signs that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above the ascending trend line, and this of course will reflect on the chart as a retest of structure. It could be the retest of the ascending trend line, retest of the 85.90, or even the retest of the 85.45 area. But most importantly, we want to see signs that buyers are finding it difficult to break above the structure, and at that point we want to start considering selling the US All Spot. So, and we have multiple levels that we can use to maximize this one. In fact, I will mark this one $84.55 level, a level which has been a buying niche, as you will see, since last week Friday at this point. So we would like price to break out, take out all the buy positions there to feel comfortable adding more sell positions to our trade. So this is how we are going to be managing our position on the US All Spot for today. So you do want to be marking out these levels. Very important right here is that ascending trend line and those couple of levels there we identified, we said we will be using to guide our decision for today. So these are my views here on the US All Spot. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section.